Hello, hello, testing. All right, looks good there. Okay. Oh, it saves the previous chat up there. That's cool. All right. I thought when I had refreshed it, it would have undone that, but all right, that works out. We like this. All right. So when last we left off, we were talking about the realm of primordial water, planet known as Ionok, off to the side of one of the known manifolds within my campaign setting. So this would be manifold 11 here. It's just kind of a very simple thing, but because we didn't have a lot of information on this realm, it was kind of a perfect opportunity to start digging into the descriptions of the different planes and manifolds within the campaign setting. Ooh, excuse me there, sorry. Alright, so last time we were talking, we created a section on creatures and inhabitants of the realm, and we started talking about lore for the primary home location for Undyne populations within this realm, within this planet. Alright, so here, let me just go ahead and kind of read back what we were talking about, what we were saying. And then we're going to kind of get into some of the new stuff here that I have in red. Just because that is... I've been working on this some more in my spare time. And I want to, try and keep parity up with the streams and such. So, creatures and inhabitants of the realm. Ionok is home to several different intelligent species and populations. The most well-known are the Harpies and the Undyne, who hail from this realm. The Undyne make their home beneath the waves of Ionok in a steel reef, overtaken by the corals and natural flora found in all of the realm's habitable zones. The Harpies, on the other hand, make their nests and hanging cities on the mountainous ranges near Ionok's equator, in areas difficult to reach by those bound to the land and sea. While the surface of Ionok is primarily an open ocean, several archipelagos have sprung up from volcanic fissures on the ocean floor. Similarly, peoples displaced to the realm of primordial water may find environments and habitable lands on the backs of massive sea creatures known as Oz, who wander the wide sea and can defend themselves against the leviathans who would otherwise predate upon them. The main predators of the realm of primordial water are the leviathans, massive territorial sea creatures who influence and impact the habitable zones of the realm. Outside of size alone, leviathans are recognized and categorized as invertebrate placoderms, bearing both large cartilaginous exoskeletons and a great amount of flexibility and adaptability to Ionok's environments. These leviathans are also necessary for the continuation and survival of displaced marine life beneath the seas, as the leviathans' natures exude different levels of salinity throughout their territory. Hang on. Ionok is home to most sea creatures from other planes, displaced naturally through planar conjunctions and weakened barriers between realms. The waters of this land being saline, fresh, or brackish, depending on the leviathans in the area, have come to support ecosystems from every known analog ocean. Planes. As well as what? as well as oceanic life. Native. As well as maintaining its own native ecosystems. There we go. All right. So, regions and environments. Beforehand, I was talking about a place in a game that I am still in the process of working on, and it's mostly going to be a very long set future endeavor. But basically adapting this world into also a sci-fi setting, just some 30,000, 50,000 years in the future from the core base experience, something like a Star Frontiers or a Starfight. And so that is where this next area comes in, and that one of the primary regions in here, in this game, has been shunted backwards through time from that setting. That's a whole lot of kind of gobbledygook. I would recommend checking out like our previous stream to fully jump on board with that story here, but you're going to see some of those different talking points here, and I'm sure I'm going to be bringing up and kind of retelling the story throughout this stream as well. Nonetheless, what I had previously called Erasetum Station, that being the primary name for this location in the future. I worked quite hard breaking down words from other cultures, both extant and historic, in order to create in-universe names for different populations, different cities, and the like. And as the cultures of Ionok are based largely in ancient Mesoamerican cultures, think the Inca, the Aztec, the Mayan, and the Olmec civilizations, I went to a lot of their languages and a lot of scholars who were researching how those languages work in order to come up with different ways to play on the names and like titles for cultural events. I'm figuring some of this is going to get cut from the 2-page spread on the plane, which is fine because I can also then kind of move it over towards the Undying Ancestry document as well, so that way we can continue to discuss there. But the name for our big station city here is Nyla Hotla, which translates to Heart of Deep Blue in, well, I believe it's, I have it written down here. Do I? I think I do. Maybe not. I do not actually have that written down where it is a direct translation from, but it is a combination of Aztec, Incan, Mayan. So that would be Quechua, Yucatec Mayan. I'm going deep into Nautol. Like I'm going deep into the languages just as an English major and just kind of as someone who wants to kind of be a bit of a historian of the world and reflect that deep history within the campaign setting that I put forward here. So Nyla Hotla, Heart of Deep Blue in Aquid, is the primary home of the Undying on Ionok. Those who make their home within the rings of the city call themselves Amayans. a name which loosely translates to unsoiled. The Amayans observe a strict militance toward other populations on Ionoc, and especially those who make their homes and camps on the sparse isles and archipelagos near the realm's equator. Little is known about Amayan society due to this protective nature. The few exiled Amayans willing to divulge information about Ny'alotha describe a culture of rigid hierarchies where Undine are elevated to different Vati, places in Aquin, where they serve the city and its people in different societal roles. A sacred ritual of the Amayan people is that of Telexi Maya, becoming fire upon water. Upon acceptance or placement into one of the city's Vati, the Amayan chooses a new name for themselves befitting their position, and an image befitting this chosen name is tattooed across their body in a luminescent ink made from orichalcum, a sacred metal harvested from the spires of Ny'alotha. This name and mark is meant to grant the Amayan wisdom and refuge in times of uncertainty, and guide them back to their home no matter how far they roam. Those who break their oaths or bring dishonor to their Vati are banished from Ny'alotha to Tlash. Hang on. My white American tongue does not like the TLAL bits, but my brain does because it fits the thing. Tlash. I was able to say this, and now I'm just streamer anxiety. Tlalshiama, the Dark Waters, from where they are expected to never return from. Tlalshiama. Yeah, there. The city itself is a collection of long, branching, intertwined spires that reach from the surface sun-touched waters to just above the seafloor trenches. Around these core pillars are fragmented rings and disks that, if unburied from millennia of surface buildup, might have once rotated freely around the city, but now provide a defensive barrier against leviathans who would otherwise claim Ny'alotha as their territory. Ny'alotha sets itself apart from every other civilization in the realm, in that the bones of the city are made from a metal found nowhere else on Ionoc, orichalcum. Orichalcum is a splendid deep gold metal that glows as if red hot while in contact with water. Further adding to its mystery is the metal's curious ability to resist transmutative spellcraft. Orichalcum has been widely adopted as a symbol of Ny'alotha. It exists in much of the Amayans' weapons and armor, and is even used as currency within the city. Scholars and anthropologists who study Undine and Amayan culture have noticed that orichalcum's versatility has empowered and elevated the culture of Ny'alotha to what it is today, as many of the metals common to other realms would be difficult to forge and maintain on Ionoc. Little else is known about Ny'alotha, as the Undine cast out of the city often uphold its secrecy, in the hopes that they may one day find their way back within its arches. Let me see here. Because as I was reading through that, I wanted to expand a little bit upon this section here about strict militance towards other populations, just because Ny'alotha is a culture that is specifically like it maintains a strict secrecy. Like the people of this land, the Amayans, they hunt down any and all people who get relatively close to the city. They also execute raids and piracy upon different ships and such, and different creatures that will make their way towards the city, whether intentionally, unintentionally, or whatever. Ooh. Ships in Azun who find themselves traveling in the direction of Nylahodla can expect to encounter a party of Amayan hunters and raiders who will force her retreat in the best of circumstances. Under the best of circumstances. Hang on. Sorry, 1 second, getting a notification here. Alright. So yeah, that I think is going to be our core right up here for this city. So let's just go ahead and get rid of the red text there. And put in our spaces afterwards. There we go. Yeah, adding in those spaces and such afterwards makes it so that it's much easier for me to just kind of organize and make like this all look readable. That said, also I estimate that it's going to be like roughly 4 or 5 pages in here, but by the time we actually convert this into formatable text for our publishing program, it's going to shrink down and be about that 2-page spread, maybe bleeding onto a 3rd page if we have to. That's going to be a lot of the editing process. That's going to be a lot of stuff that we're going to be tackling later. Later on down the line. Hang on a second. Sorry, my OBS is showing that maybe the stream's disconnected. Nope. All is good. It just didn't catch up to my actions over here. That's all good. I just wanted to make sure everything is functioning properly, etc., etc. And yeah. Sure does look like it. Cool. Alright, so let's talk about wind-sheared peaks and archipelagos. Okay, so Ionok in and of itself is loosely based on the Ordovician period of Earth's natural history. Once again, don't quote me exactly that it's the Ordovician, but I'm fairly certain that it is. because that was when like the Appalachian Mountains were closer towards the equator and primarily volcanic, and that is what I am drawing on here, where you have these huge spires of mountains towards the equator that are volcanic. And so on one hand, we are setting up a little bit of a mass extinction sort of thing here that we could work with. But as far as just kind of continental volcanism, that means we're going to have volcanic created archipelagos sprouting up across the lands or across the ocean surfaces. Then we're also going to have these large mountains. And large mountains are where we're going to have our harpies. Naturally. So let's go ahead and just kind of put in some spaces here and just kind of begin drafting and feeling out this area here. So towards the equator of Ionok, a large are several ranges of several mountainous ranges. Are several volcanic, several mountainous ranges. Formed through continental volcanism. No. Formed through what? Through the shifting plates beneath the ocean floor. Because that's just how mountains form. Like, it's just saying, towards the equator of Ionok are several mountainous ranges. They form the way that mountains do. Like, that's so normal. Let me just go to my main view here. Okay. Are several mountainous ranges. Home to several of the land dwelling displaced populations, Ionok, and civilizations of harpies. Native to the realm. Several mountainous ranges and volcanic archipelagos. Okay, so there we go. That's a start there. not known for its its ability, its nature to house terrestrial creatures. Not known for its nature. Not known for its what? It's okay, maybe this is just the wrong way to start the sentence. Okay. These surface lands are primarily covered in jungles. And suitable environments, creatures, who inhabit these jungles. I don't want to say jungle twice in 2 sentences in a row. The creatures who inhabit these environments are ones who fled the water. Ones who what? Ones who left the water due to the presence of leviathans, like. Are ones who would not survive. No, because of course they wouldn't survive in the water. They're on the land. They're in the jungles. Aside from just the native are there what, primarily insects, arthropods, like that sort of thing. I don't know. I feel like I'm hitting a block here. are built towards the peaks of these mountains, volcanoes, hanging from different ledges. And encompassing every nook, cranny, every nook that nook carved into the rock. From these mountainous vistas, they swoop down into the arthropod, filled arthropod to the edges. Okay. From these mountainous vistas, they swoop down to the arthropod-filled jungles and rainforests, and the shallowed coves and sea edges to hunt. Never flying more than, typically a couple miles away from their roost. Okay. Okay, so that's just kind of basic food. We're on the land, we're in rainforest and such, so we have access to water, we have access to different stills. So, like, we're fine with that. We also can, track the different populations of leviathans moving, so that way we can have access to fresh water. Harpies of Ionok, they probably have like a couple of mystics and such who inhale and diffuse this sort of volcanic smoke and into the into their being, and that to give oracular providences and such, very similar to like the oracle at Delphi and such. That's it. Community-driven species who seek guidance, enlightenment, oracles and mystics who make their homes near near the fence. In rocky outcroppings near volcanic vents. These mystics serve as societal leaders and visionaries. Serve as society leaders and visionaries. Among the different feathers. No, do we call them feathers? Like, as far as groups, we have like clans, we have tribes, we have. Hang on, let's just pull up a thesaurus here. Bands, factions, gangs, mobs, sects, societies, tribes, associations, bunches, clubs, coteries, crews, crowds, crush, folks group, house, family, clique. Maybe we call them nests. That seems, yeah. Branches. I could see that working out well. Among the different branches are nests. Okay, so we need to have something, interesting here. What do we have? What can we say that is going to be, interesting? That's going to be a good plot hook, other than there are harpies here. Are they more of a raider culture? Are they more of like pillagers? Hmm. Okay. Similar to the Undyne Mayan cultures. Harpies are known to be pirates and raiders of among displaced populations. Several settlements on the archipelagos have established net launchers, net throwers, constructed net throwers, similar to dissuade aerial assailants. Similarly, populations build themselves up on backs of Ozin Where's theirs? It is. Mostly because I just don't want to go to recopying that character. Are familiar with the process of hiding valuables and goods within creatures' shells, so as to avoid being carried off by harpies. Actually, we don't need to have that. No to hide. Their wares. Resources being carried off. There we go. That reads better. While they can and will venture out further into the open ocean. Most of the civilizations that make their home on Osins stick close to the shores archipelagos to trade, engage with other peoples. Especially during mating season. Most that doesn't make sense. Because why would they go into the deep ocean to have their young when they have shores and like smaller lands here? No, Osins would be creatures that mate and have their young in the shores in the shallows area. So there would be different cultures about, like nurturing these large turtles and lion turtle kind of like beasts that would be there. So like, no, they would. When near land, okay, so right now we need to do something more about harpies, because right now they're just kind of like pirates and raiders, and they kind of live on the sides of mountains and cool little huts and such. But like that doesn't tell me much about who they are as a people, especially not as much as what we had done for the Undying. Sorry, I'm just kind of struggling to try and think of the right way to discuss that. Hmm. Okay, so what I'm kind of thinking here is what I mean, do we talk about I mean, it's not really a thing where there's a lot of governance to talk about. Um, we can talk about like economics, but that's mostly kind of on a like proto fiat currency where it's like seashells and like bartering and kind of First Nations America sort of thing. We could talk about I mean, what what's the plan here? What's the play? Um, so society. We kind of mentioned a little bit about that. Art. What would harpy art look like? Harpy art would be. I mean, the obvious easy one would be that sort of like a cave painting sort of thing. It could be this sort of. I don't think that they. I mean, of the different populations here, they're probably the one that would have a lot of writing. Like they could. Their writing would probably be more glyph based, more kind of scratched and chiseled, just due to the nature of their biology. It would probably be what? Hmm. Are there any core inventions in the that harpies are known for? I mean, or I feel like the answer to these questions go in the harpy document. Like as an ancestry. So yeah, Nyla Hotla kind of deserves a little bit more discussion because it is strange. Honestly, I think that this being kind of a shorter section here, one that's going to balance it out a bit because I think we're going to get a little bit more information just kind of about the trench because that's where our core dragon of the realm is. Um, and like, I think that this is a decent area where we can kind of. Well, we're not. Yeah, I think that's a pretty decent way to handle that there. Yeah, I really don't have a strong vision for this portion of the world, and so having it be less here is a bit more, I suppose, understandable. Um, okay, so next up we would be talking about the trench, and honestly, I think that that's going to be a stream in and of itself. Yeah, I'm kind of. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of feeling a bit out right now, so I think I'm gonna just put a pause on it, and we're gonna come back to the trench another day. But thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for checking this out. I look forward to seeing you next time when we do talk about the trench. But thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, do all of the engagement things if you enjoy what I do and what I make here. You're the best. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and spending a bit of time today with me. I will see y'all next time. Take care.